Sources say the FBI is investigating Sheriff Joe Arpaio for abusing his power and retaliating against critics. And CBS 5's Morgan Lowe is here. And Morgan, you spent a lot of time on this investigation. What have you uncovered?
We wanted to know if this is just tough politics or if it is an abuse of power. So we looked at all of the cases and tracked down a legal expert who has no ties to Maricopa County but has a lot of credibility as a prosecutor.
The treatment is wrong, man.
Good tattoo.
Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio is known for his tent city jail, making inmates wear pink underwear, and a tough stance against illegal immigration.
The last I heard, if you're in this country illegally, you are a criminal.
But there's something else you may not know about the sheriff. He's under criminal investigation by the FBI, accused of using his deputies to get back at people who criticize him.
Does it appear that Sheriff Arpaio is breaking the law?
Yes.
David Iglesias is the former U.S. Attorney for New Mexico. When we showed him the complaints against the sheriff we investigated, he had this reaction.
I've been in and around law enforcement for about 20 years, state, local, federal level, and even some military prosecution work. I've never seen anything like this.
Over the past year, we investigated 24 complaints against the sheriff. Not from criminals or illegal immigrants, but from business owners, law enforcement officials, politicians, even regular government workers. All of them said they spoke out against the sheriff, and soon afterwards, deputies paid them an unwelcomed visit.
I was targeted.
Phoenix Mayor Phil Gordon has found himself in the sheriff's crosshairs on a number of occasions.
All these so-called allegations, all the FBI investigations boils down to one guy, and that's the mayor of Phoenix.
In April of last year, Gordon wrote a letter to the Justice Department asking the agency to look into complaints of racial profiling against the sheriff's office. 20 days later, sheriff's deputies demanded all of the mayor's emails, phone call logs, and appointment calendars. The mayor says it was intimidation.
Do you think that was in retaliation for the letter that you wrote to the Justice Department?
Definitely was. It was multiple inquiries and investigations acknowledged by some of the sheriff's people.
In Mesa, Police Chief George Gascon was openly critical of the sheriff's crime sweeps. Then one night, sheriff's deputies raided the Mesa City Hall and public library. The sheriff said they were looking for illegal immigrants working as janitors. Mesa City leaders said the show of force was over the top. The list of people subjected to the sheriff's investigations reads like a who's who of the valley. People who had authority over the sheriff or challenged his authority, all under investigation. Dan Sabin, who ran against the sheriff in 2004 and 2008. Arizona Attorney General Terry Goddard. Maricopa County Manager David Smith, the entire County Board of Supervisors, Superior Court Presiding Judge Barbara Mundell, and Attorney Daniel Pachota from the ACLU, just to name a few. None of those investigations resulted in convictions, but they cost the targets hundreds of thousands of dollars in lawyer bills and tarnished their reputations. Many, like Phil Gordon, have never even been charged with a crime.
He knows he never has to prove anything. He just raises the issue and then hides behind the badge. And the damage is done.
Some of the cases we looked at involved journalists.
Oh, he won't answer the doggone question, will he?
In 2004, former New Times reporter John Doherty found himself under criminal investigation.
They said I approached Arpaio in a threatening manner with a silver metallic object. Are you going to respond to my public records requests?
A CBS 5 photographer caught the aftermath on tape.
They know that I was a reporter for New Times, and they knew for sure I was just showing them a tape recorder.
Doherty had been working on a story about the sheriff's hidden land investments, potentially embarrassing for the sheriff.
I mean, I think it was clearly a retaliation because they wanted to stop us from pursuing our investigation into his offices.
The land story eventually led to the paper's publisher and executive editor getting arrested and thrown in jail. But the county attorney dropped the charges next day.
It has become clear to me that the investigation has gone in a direction that I would not have authorized.
But no investigation played out as publicly as the case of County Supervisor Don Stapley, arrested for allegedly filing false financial statements. After the first round of charges were dismissed, the sheriff had him rearrested.
Is there one thing that stands out that Don Stapley did that made the sheriff angry, that started this?
Well, he opposed the sheriff's budget. He insisted that there be someone placed inside his office that audit the budget. He disagreed with the sheriff on his use of funds to do roundups.
Paul Charlton is Stapley's attorney. He's also the former U.S. attorney for the District of Arizona and someone who knows about the proper way to conduct investigations. He says when you look at all of the people the sheriff has targeted, you begin to see a pattern.
And the only conclusion is that when you cross this guy for legitimate reasons, you're going to find yourself under criminal investigation for a completely illegitimate reason.
Sources tell CBS 5 that the FBI's investigation into Sheriff Arpaio began more than a year ago when President Bush was still in the White House. The FBI has a policy of not commenting on open investigations. So we packed up the research we've done and sent it to a former federal prosecutor here in Washington, D.C. We wanted to know, is Sheriff Joe Arpaio really breaking the law? And if he is, could he be prosecuted for it? That brings us back to David Iglesias, the former U.S. attorney we heard from in the beginning of our story. He has a national reputation for putting principle above politics.
It didn't intimidate me, it made me angry.
And was the real-life military lawyer Tom Cruise portrayed in the movie A Few Good Men.
Do you know Sheriff Joe Arpaio?
No, never met the man.
If I'm an elected sheriff, do I have the authority to investigate someone because they criticized me?
If that's the only basis of your investigation, no.
Iglesias has no connection to the current FBI investigation, but he looked through our research and did some investigating of his own. His conclusion was sobering.
If you were handling this case, knowing what you know about it, would you seek an indictment?
I would go to a grand jury. I'd work very closely with the Civil Rights Criminal Division in Washington, D.C., and based on the information that I have, I would seek an indictment, yes.
Well, let's say he is interviewed by the FBI or these charges come against him, and he says, I had a reason to investigate this person. I had a reason to investigate that person. Is that a defense?
It's a defense, but the question asked, is it a winning defense? And I think the answer to that is no.
We do not know if the FBI investigation will result in criminal charges. Legal experts tell CBS 5 the investigators are likely trying to turn a trusted deputy against the sheriff. But even if they can't, the pattern of cases may be enough to haul the sheriff off to court.
Every single one of those individuals has in common their opposition at some point in time to Joe Arpaio on a legitimate political issue.
I believe that he did everything in his power to try to weaken our ability to report the news.
Has the FBI interviewed you about this issue?
Yes.
This is remarkable. I can't believe this is happening in the United States. This is something that I have seen in South America, Africa, Eastern Europe, and Asia. Absolutely unacceptable. We don't do this kind of thing in this country without some kind of consequence.
The normally talkative Sheriff Arpaio refused our repeated requests for an on-camera interview. His office did send us the following statement. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office does not retaliate against any specific individual or agency. The Sheriff's Office provides the citizens of Maricopa County with professional and efficient law enforcement services. And Sean and Catherine, we've invited Sheriff Arpaio to appear live on CBS 5, unedited and unfiltered, to respond.